She dominated the local hero and then the clay stole it back. Eala'S Linz Rollercoaster will break your heart. You wanted a story. You wanted drama. You wanted the kind of tennis that makes you leap off your couch at midnight and then slump back into your seat 5 minutes later wondering what on earth just happened. Well, the clay season just officially announced itself, and it did so in the most Alex Eala way imaginable. It gave you a perfect beginning. It gave you a breathtaking fight. And then it gave you the most gut-wrenching finish you could possibly write. Because in the space of 48 hours at the Linz Open in Austria, this 20-year-old from the Philippines took us on a journey that covered the full emotional spectrum of professional tennis. First came the arrival, the declaration, the performance that made the entire WTA sit up and take notice. And then came the lesson, the brutal, unforgiving, character-defining lesson that clay is not a surface that rewards complacency, even for one single moment, even when victory is practically already gift-wrapped and sitting in your hands. This is the full story of Alex Eala'S Linz Open. And trust me, you want to hear every single word of it. Eala opened her clay season campaign at the 2026 Linz Open in Austria with a composed 6-4, 6-3 victory over Austrian hometown favorite Julia Grabher in the round of 32, marking her debut at this WTA 500 event and her first competitive match on clay this season. Olympics. And let us be very clear about what Grabher represented as an opponent in this context. This was not a routine first-round match against a lower-ranked player going through the motions on her way out of the draw. Grabher had climbed from a ranking of around 470 all the way to 8th to 9th in the world over the previous 15 months, building her WTA profile almost entirely on clay courts. WTA, the very surface Eala was stepping onto for the first time in 2026. She knew these courts. She had the crowd. She had the momentum of a player in the form of her life. And she had a home city cheering her name before a single ball had been struck. None of that mattered to Eala. Not even slightly. Eala carried a clear ranking advantage as the world number 4 to 6, but faced a tricky test in Grabher, a player far more seasoned on clay who had built her WTA success on the surface and showed her comfort early by matching Eala shot for shot through a tightly contested opening set. ESPN. This was the kind of first-round battle that has caught many higher-ranked players off guard. And there were certainly moments in that first set where Grabher was doing exactly what the home crowd needed her to do. She was pushing. She was grinding. She was making every single game feel like a war. Eala faced breakpoint pressure in 3 of her 5 service games in the first set, including a particularly intense 7th game that went to 7 deuces before she held firm. The Tennis Gazette, a statistic that tells you everything about how scrappily she had to fight just to stay on serve through the opening set. This was not a comfortable afternoon for the Filipino star. This was a battle of character as much as it was a battle of tennis. And the character showed up. The pivotal moment came in the 10th game, with the set locked tight, when Grabher moved to the verge of leveling at 5 games all, but Eala produced a superb forehand winner to create set point before Grabher's return went wide to hand her the opening set 6-4. Olympics, that one moment. That one superb forehand winner precisely when it was needed most. That is the difference between a good player and a great one. Good players find that shot sometimes. Great players find it when the match demands it. And Eala found it when the entire Austrian crowd was willing Grabher back into the set. The second set followed a similar early rhythm before Eala created separation by breaking Grabher in the 4th game to take a commanding 3-1 lead, demonstrating her composure under pressure by subsequently saving both breakpoint opportunities when Grabher threatened to swing the momentum back. ESPN. Grabher managed to break Eala for the first time in the match to cut the deficit to 4 games to 3, but Eala responded immediately with a break of her own to open up a 5-3 lead before serving out the victory in confident fashion. Inquirer.net. 1 hour and 42 minutes. 6-4. 6-3. Clean. Decisive. Composed. This was Alex Eala announcing to the clay season that she had arrived with her game completely intact after the hard-court swing, ready for whatever the red dirt had in store. After the match, Eala described being happy with her ability to maintain intensity throughout against a very demanding opponent, and she took time to thank the Filipino supporters who had traveled to Austria to cheer her on, speaking to them in Filipino and expressing his surprise and gratitude at finding such strong community backing in an Austrian city so far from home. GMA News Online. She told her Filipino fans directly, mixing English and Filipino, that she had not expected so many of them to be in Linz, thanking them and inviting them back for the next day's match. Inquirer.net, 1 hour and 42 minutes. 6-4, 6-3. Clean, decisive, composed. This was Alex Ealer announcing to the clay season that she had arrived with her game completely intact after the hard-court swing, ready for whatever the red dirt had in store. After the match, Ealer described being happy with her ability to maintain intensity throughout against a very demanding opponent, as she took time to thank the Filipino supporters who had traveled to Austria to cheer her on, speaking to them in Filipino and expressing her surprise and gratitude at finding such strong community backing in an Austrian city so far from home. GMA News Online. She told her Filipino fans directly, mixing English and Filipino, that she had not expected so many of them to be in Linz, thanking them and inviting them back for the next day's match. Rappler, this is what makes Eala'S story so much more than just a tennis narrative. She is not performing gratitude for the cameras. She genuinely means every word of it. The connection she has with her supporters is real, mutual, and the kind of thing you cannot manufacture through marketing or social media strategy. But right there, in that moment of pure connection with her fans, she also issued a warning to everyone watching. Tomorrow, she said, everything gets bigger. Tomorrow, everything gets more intense. Because standing on the other side of the net in the round of 16 was Jelena Ostapenko, the 2017 French Open champion, the fourth seed in Linz, and a player carrying a very specific score to settle. Eala and Ostapenko had met twice previously on tour in 2025, with Eala holding a 2-0 head-to-head advantage heading into the Linz encounter, including a straight sets victory over the Latvian at the 2025 Miami Open and a win at the Eastbourne Open. GMA News Online. So the narrative going into the round of 16 was perfectly constructed. Eala was the player with the psychological edge. Ostapenko was the proven Grand Slam champion who had never beaten her Filipino opponent in any of their previous meetings. The reigning French Open champion of their surface discipline, on clay, facing the player who had her number. It should have been the next chapter of a story being written entirely in Eala'S favor. What actually happened was one of the most dramatic matches of the early clay season, and it contained a lesson that every serious tennis fan will recognize immediately. The cruelest thing about this sport is not losing. It is having victory in your grasp, feeling the weight of it, beginning to close your fingers around it, and then watching it fall through anyway. Eala got off to a difficult start in the opening set against Ostapenko, with a Latvian controlling the early exchanges and taking a commanding advantage before Eala rallied to pull level at 4 games all with 2 consecutive service breaks. ESPN. Eala went up 4 games to 2 in the opening set and appeared to be establishing control, but Ostapenko demonstrated exactly why she is a Grand Slam champion by sweeping the next 4 games and overpowering Eala in their exchanges to capture the first set 6-4. Tiebreaker times. The same pattern that had threatened in the grabber match but been arrested by Eala'S composure was here allowed to develop fully. Ostapenko, when she finds her timing and rhythm on clay, is one of the most destructive players on the entire tour. Her forehand is a weapon that does not play by the same rules as everyone else's, and when it starts connecting, the momentum can swing with terrifying speed. The second set is where the story became truly extraordinary. 2 clean service breaks put Eala ahead 4-0 in the second set, with her return games doing the damage against Ostapenko's delivery. And even when Ostapenko tried to respond, Eala stayed composed in the longer exchanges, briefly extending the gap to 5-1 after a quick exchange of breaks. ESPN, 5 games to 1. In the second set, against a Grand Slam champion who had just taken the first set. The match was Eala'S to win. A third set was a single game away. Hundreds of Filipino fans in the Design Center Linz were already on their feet. Half a world away, millions more were watching on live streams, staying up through the night, holding their breath, counting down. And then the cruelest sequence in the match began. Ostapenko broke back and then kept coming, winning 6 consecutive games from 1-5 down to claim the set 7-5 and seal the match in 1 hour and 43 minutes, marking her first ever victory over Eala in 3 career meetings. Inquirer.net, 6 straight games. From 5-1 down, on clay, where momentum runs like water downhill once it starts flowing in one direction. Ostapenko fired 4-1 winners compared to Eala'S 9 in the final stretch of the match, the disparity in firepower ultimately telling the complete story of how the second set was reversed. Subscribe, turn on your notifications, because this story is moving faster than any ranking list can keep up with, and we are covering every single chapter as it unfolds.